2023 is over and a new year has begun. You probably have a whole list of New Year's resolutions, such as going to the gym and shrinking that inner tube, which has gotten more enormous thanks to all the Christmas cooking you shoved down your pie hole. And you probably swore to treat your family and friends a lot better. Well, you can add one more New Year's resolution to your list. Hi, SA here, and when I'm not sounding like a complete knucklehead on the computer, I'm also a published author, and I have a deal for you. Remember to get your copy of Glitch, a precarious duo, and its sequel, Glitch, The Future is Unwritten. You can get them on either Kindle or paperback. Both are available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other fine bookstores. The links are down below in the description. You will enjoy this crime thriller tale of a kidnapped teen model and a reluctant jewel thief who are on the run from the law while on the treadmill at the gym. And I'm not just some one-hit wonder either. I have more books coming down the pike, so as long as I don't die in my sleep. Stuart? Stuart? You'll see those other books too. Now let's get back to the video. Hello again. SA here. Back during the bad old days of the Cold War, the English, British, whatever, they had a plan in case World War III were to break out. In fact, they had a lot of plans. But one of the plans was that in case full-scale nuclear exchange were to occur, any survivors would be transported out of the disaster zones, you know, like major cities that would like be being nuked out of existence. And they would be taken not to so much refugee camps, but they'd be taken to smaller towns and villages that likely avoided bombs falling on them. And the plan was to go to people's individual homes and put the refugees in them. And then you say, what about the people who live there? Ah, there's the rub. But anyway, after the Cold War ended, the English reevaluated some of those old Cold War plans and found that they were simply unworkable. And indeed, the people at the BBC were aware of this ahead of time, and they actually made a film about it called Threads. Now, the video is on YouTube. You can see it if you want. But there's a scene in the story where the whole film is about a hypothetical nuclear exchange that destroys most of England. But anyway, there's a scene in there where the few institutions, government, police that are left, they're trying to house the few survivors in people's individual homes that somehow avoided the bombs. And it didn't work out. Because as soon as the people, the authorities left, the people who owned the properties immediately kicked the refugees out. They didn't want them there. But anyway, this video is not so much about old Cold War planning in case of worst case scenario. This is about the here and now. And people, smart people, such as you out there in YouTube land who've been paying attention, have probably heard about the Great Replacement theory. And its problem is it's not a theory at all. It's praxis. Because right now, Mayorkas, the clown's supposed to be head of DHS, and by extension, Border Patrol, they're letting in untold millions of people. How many millions? We don't know. I think they stopped counting when they got past 10 or 12 million. And then you say, well, what's it all for? Well, if there's multiple videos going as far back as back when George W. was in office, where you have various Democrat politicians talking about letting in untold millions of people and then giving them voting rights. And you say, well, isn't that what happens when the people immigrate to the United States and become citizens? Yeah, but they weren't talking about that. They were just talking about open the floodgates, letting untold millions of people into the United States, and no paperwork, no green card, and definitely no citizenship, and just giving them voting rights and then having them vote in elections. And you say, well, isn't that illegal? Yeah, it is illegal. But this is the rub. The Democrats wanted to make it legal. And then you say, well, that sounds like a recipe for chaos. Oh, really? You think so? Well, anyway, even though these Democrats, these leftists that are doing this, they are trying to accelerate things. And you say, accelerate them how? Well, right now, as we speak, in Brooklyn, there's a high school there. Except the high school is not a high school anymore, it's just become a refugee camp. And you say, what? Yeah, right now as we speak. And they say, oh, so where are the students at? Where's the faculty? Well, they're not in the school. In fact, according to multiple witnesses, these people have started remote learning at home. Fine, as long as you have an internet connection, but if you're a poor kid whose parents work 2 jobs and eating bologna, yeah, good luck with that. And it's not stopping there. You have multiple states, from Vermont to California, where they actually did pass a law allowing illegal aliens to come across the border and just show up at balloting centers to vote in our elections. And you say, what? Nope, not bullshit. It's true. You can look it up. And you say that sounds like a lie. That sounds like a bullshit. Well, it's not bullshit. And then you're thinking, so what's it all for? What's it all for? It's basically to create a one-party state with a D for Democrat. And you say, but that doesn't sound like it's possible. I mean, ordinary people wouldn't stand for it. Precisely. But only if they knew it was happening. Because old Tucker Carlson, over a year ago, I think it was 2 years ago, he mentioned it on his TV show, back when he was still working for Fox. And then almost immediately people said, rate replacement theory, what's that? Well, guess what? People who've been paying attention, they're all talking about it now, and they're seeing it. Indeed, Vivek, the guy who's running for president right now, he mentioned it on Twitter or X, or where hell Elon Musk is calling it at the moment. And he said it ain't right. And he should know, because his family worked hard to immigrate to the United States legally. And the fact that these knuckleheads under the current administration are just letting in people by the trainload into this country and trying to give them voting rights? No. That's wrong, and they know it. But guess what? These people, they have a backup plan in case Biden doesn't make it to the finish line in the next election. And you say, really? Yeah. I'm not making it up. Because look at this here. Now, this clown here doesn't work for the Democratic Party per se. But there she is right there. Yeah, that scumbag. She wrote this big fat article for the newspaper, basically an insurance policy in case the old devil, the orange man, becomes president. Now, I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I'll just read the highlights. You ready? Listen to this. Now, this woman here talks about the former president and talks about how if he becomes the new president, he'll likely start rounding up these illegal aliens and send them back to their home countries. But then she says right here, you ready? Listen to this. You're going to love this part. She says that it would be the largest ever deportation operation and build mass detention camps for migrants. He wouldn't spare longtime residents with clean criminal records, parents of U.S. citizens and children, taxpayers, and even green card holders. Now, wait 1 second there. The last time I checked, if you wanted to get a green card, you had to immigrate legally. Now, of course, some of you who are my age remember what happened back in the 80s when Reagan got bamboozled into signing a piece of paper that was going to give a bunch of people amnesty, but in exchange he was going to get border security. But anyone who remembers that legislation found out later that Reagan was bamboozled. We expect the guy had Alzheimer's, but we didn't realize at the time. So Reagan allowed, I think it was like 10 million illegal aliens amnesty, but he never got his border security. So there you go. But this knucklehead here, this Guerrero chick, she's talking about deporting green card holders. Excuse me, but we're not stupid, okay? Only legal residents of the United States are allowed green cards. And the last time I checked, Mayorkas isn't handing out green cards at the border, okay? It's not happening. So the very idea that she's insinuating that Trump will round up green card holders and send them back to their home countries, that's just malarkey, to use a Joe Biden term. It's rubbish. It's bullshit. So why does she say such a thing? To be hyperbolic, to basically try to scare people. But anyone whose brains still work knows that's not going to happen. If you're a legal immigrant to the United States, that you got your paperwork together and you came here properly, and you have a proper green card, not some photocopied one you got from some guy in the back alley somewhere, you got nothing to worry about. You're not going to be deported. Okay, you ready for the rest of it? Okay, here we go. This woman then says that how can we stop the mass deportation? She says first you have to contact Congress. And she says everybody should be calling members of Congress and demanding legislation to protect law-abiding people in this country. Well, guess what, sister? Since they are illegal aliens, they're not law-abiding citizens. They broke federal law just by being here. So they're not law-abiding citizens. And then she says that the Congress should modify the Immigration Act of 1929, the section involving renewing immigration provision. Now, of course, anyone who knows better knows that's not going to happen because the Congress is split. You got the Democrats who are barely hanging on by their fingernails in the Senate, and you got the Republicans hanging by their fingernails in the House of Representatives. So forget that's not going to happen. Let's continue. And then she talks about getting involved with local immigration rights organizations. Now, of course, and then she mentions one organization called the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of LA. Well, we're in California, so there you go. And talks about how the Biden administration's deferred action for people who experience labor right violations and whatnot. Now, of course, this woman knows better. She knows that if these people are here illegally, they have no legal rights for employment at all. They don't. But let's continue. And then she says, applying for citizenship to help others to do so. And she talks about millions of people with green cards who are eligible for citizenship and have not applied for the privilege. And she said that they should immediately apply for the citizenship. And wait for it, you're gonna love this part. By becoming citizens, they could also help undocumented relatives adjust their status. Oh, really? And how? Oh, by sponsoring them? Well, from what I recall, it's not as easy as it seems. There's multiple steps. And besides, if you're here legally, the law says that and more likely you'll likely be arrested and sent home, and then have to be on a waiting list. So there you go. Let's continue. And then she talks about register to vote or join a registration drive. And then she sits there and says that about how a lot of people, the Hispanic crowd, people who are actually born and raised here, most of them don't like Biden, and they're gravitating towards Trump. And then she says that more and more people should be registered to vote in order, and this is her words, it's imperative that young people and Latinos register to vote as soon as possible to reverse this disturbing trend. Well, excuse me, but she doesn't understand this. The reason why these people are rooting for Trump is because guess what? Most Hispanics don't like illegal immigration. Why? Because it takes away jobs from them and takes food out of the bellies of themselves and their kids. Because what if you're a legal resident in this country, Hispanic, and let's say you're working construction, you get making good money, like $50 an hour. And then what if somebody who just came across the border from, like, say, Ecuador or Panama last week, and he's willing to do the same job you're doing, like, say, laying down a rebar, and he'll do it for $10 a day. What do you think's going to happen to you and your job? Especially if you're dealing with some disreputable construction company. I mean, they're going to sit there and say, well, hey, I'm this brother over here, I've been paying him $50 an hour to lay down rebar at these construction sites. Now, this clown over here who can't speak English, he's going to do the same job for $10 a day. $50 an hour, $10 a day. Well, he just found out who just became unemployed. And do you think that ordinary working Joes, working Hispanics, are going to vote themselves out of a job? Yeah. You're obviously smoking something in your tobacco besides tobacco, smoking inside your pipe besides tobacco. Yeah. But let's continue. And then she talks about, tell your story. Tell your story, huh? Oh, here she elaborates. If you're undocumented, consider sharing your story. Says some immigration activists who came from, guess what? Ecuador. No shit. And then this person whose Hispanic name I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to try. Then they say they know it's risky to do so because immigration enforcement has a tendency to detain people who come out publicly and say they're here illegally, which is true. So there you go. And then this stupid woman continues, and then create contingency plans. Mixed status families should create a plan in case they're victims of raids or deportation. It's better to make hard decisions about who can help with child care and management of assets before a crisis happens. Well, I'm thinking if you're here illegally, maybe you shouldn't make any long-term plans. Trying to get a job and trying to get some kind of housing, apartment, whatever. Yeah, because you're probably not going to be around for very long. Well, anyway. And then here's her last part. And then she says, don't forget local politics. And then she says, immigration is a federal issue, but there are significant steps that local and state officials can take to protect mixed status families. City council members will sometimes say that's a federal issue, which it is. But state and local initiatives can be a big effect on immigration. And of course, she doesn't use the phrase sanctuary cities, but that's basically what she's insinuating. And anyway, she concludes her miserable article by saying that social media messaging isn't a substitute for grassroots organization, so attend local government meetings and join protests and build collective power. Don't wait for somebody to write in. We can all take steps to avert the words of Trump's plans and be ready to take him on. Now, of course, she's making all about Trump, but what she doesn't realize is that it's not just Trump. Because if Vivek somehow leapfrogs up ahead of Trump and becomes president, well, guess what? He's going to deport them too. And Nikki Haley, who, man, I can't imagine her being president, but yeah, she didn't say anything about she was going to let all these people that Biden in stay either. So there you go. And then you say, well, doesn't these people know that this whole damn scheme for the Great Replacement Praxis wasn't going to work? Well, that's just it. Ever heard the phrase getting high on your own supply? Well, that's basically what's been happening. A lot of these leftists and liberals and Democrats who've been pushing this stuff for almost 20 years now, they didn't think about the real possibility that when everyone in the country, ordinary working Joes, ordinary Joe Sixpacks, ordinary Rosie Riveter types, people who go have their 9-to-5 positions, they're not really political, they go home and watch bad TV and eat and bad fast food and listen to their arteries hardening as they're swigging down some cheap beer. Hopefully it's not Bud Light. They basically say that they don't like the very idea, okay? They say it's garbage, it's rubbish, it's bullshit. And guess what? They're not going to tolerate it. And wait for it, they're not going to vote for anyone who will tolerate it. That's why a lot of these left and middle have been playing a game of hide the football for 20 years. But thanks to social media, more and more people are finding out, and when they find out about this mess, they don't like it. They don't like it, and they don't want it. And therefore, why does these activists, these people who are promoting illegal immigration, really think they're going to succeed? That they're somehow going to prevail? Because they said it themselves repeatedly. The whole point of it is to get rid of white folks. Now, as you can tell, I'm not a white person, but as someone long ago said in a great poem, of course it was talking about Nazism, but anyway, the poem basically says that first they came for the trade unionists, and I said nothing. And then they came for the communists, and I said nothing. And then they came for the butcher, baker, and the candlestick maker, and I said nothing. And then they finally came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me in my defense. Well, now you know why I'm speaking up. Because you think this thing's going to stop with white folks? No. When these people talk about great replacement theory / praxis, they're talking about replacing everybody. They're going to replace the white folks, then they're going to replace the Asians, then they're going to replace the Hispanics who are not in tune with their malarkey, and then they're going to replace everybody else, including people like me. Yeah. And don't let them even try to play you and say, oh, we just want to replace the white folks. No, they want to replace everybody with a whole new group of knuckleheads that will vote them into office for like the next 1,000 years. Yeah, that's what they're all about. Well, now you know what the game plan is, and hopefully when election time comes, you will not vote for anyone who's for this great replacement nonsense, because it's rubbish, it's bullshit, and in the end, and wait for it, it may actually fail. It might actually boomerang on these people, because a few smart people like Mark Dice, for example, he's mentioned more than once that people who basically immigrated legally and became established, eventually got their job, their education, and became basically a good citizen. they tend not to vote Democrat. They tend to vote Republican. Why? Simple. Because if you have a good paying job, you're living in a nice home in a nice neighborhood, and you're getting money, and you're saving money on the side for retirement or maybe a college fund if you got a couple of rugrats running around. Do you really vote for people who want to put extra taxes on you and to put extra regulations on your business? Well, that's what Democrats tend to do. Republicans, they tend to say live and let live. If you're running your own business and you're doing good, they let you keep most of your money. With tax breaks and tax write-offs and incentives to expand your business. Democrats, they don't do that sort of thing. And most people who immigrate to the United States tend not to be leftists and radicals and cultural Marxists. And therefore, when most of these people tend to get established, they tend not to vote Democrat. So yeah, it would serve them right if these damn stupid knucklehead leftists let a whole 10, 50, 100 million weirdos from outside and then give them voting rights and they turn around and vote for the other team. It would serve them right. Yeah, we can only dream. Well, that's what I have to say about this great replacement Praxis. And that's my opinion.